So my first speaker is Dr. Lucas Ilhein. Lucas, come and join me. I think this is for you. So Lucas, I know many of you know, is an artist and he works between socially engaged art, agriculture and environmental management. Fantastic lineup. He's a founding member of artists' collectives, Squat Space, Big Fat Press.
Big Fag Press.
Big Fag Press.
Oh
my God, Big Fag.
When we order paper from paper suppliers, they can't believe that it would be called that, so they correct it to Big Fat Press as well.
Big Fag Press. And teaching and learning cinema. In 2015, Lucas was awarded the Australia Council for the Arts Fellowship for Emerging and Experimental Arts. He's currently an Arc DECRA Research Fellow at University of Wollongong, and I know we've got a few people that carry a bit of Wollongong in their gene pool. And he works with CANDOS, the Centre for Cultural Adaptation, a sort of growing centre on that road out to Mudgee from Lithgow. So Lucas's question. Idea-driven, studio-based, conceptual. Sydney College of the Arts has framed its identity in these terms since the 70s, since the mid-70s. Will they have the same importance for Sydney College of the Arts in the future? A very pertinent start point, I think, for today's discussion. Over to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here, and just want to acknowledge being here on Gadigal land and pay respect to the traditional owners where we meet, and travelled here from Wollongong today to be here, and I have some connections with Sydney College of the Arts through being involved with a garden project there called Tending in collaboration with Diego Bonetto and Ross Gibson, which ran in its initial phase from 2010 to 2012, and after which time I moved to Wollongong, and other students and staff have continued to garden on site in different iterations beyond that time. So I'm quite aware of the geographical, land-based context of the school and its history as well, its previous uses in mental hospital institution contexts and things like that. So it's been a very interesting place to be involved with in some ways over the years. My response to this question about idea-driven, studio-based, conceptual, what SCA has framed its identity in these terms, and will these have the same importance in the future? My immediate answer to that is it entirely depends on the people who are involved. So a school is not or should not be, a framework which exists independent of the people who work within it. It should be formed, its curriculum should be formed by the teachers, students and student teachers who are part of the community that make up that place. So this is a transition phase for Sydney College of the Arts, for the institution formerly known as Sydney College of the Arts, which may be still called that or may be called something else. But the curriculum and its surrounding facilities, arrangements in terms of staffing and logistics need to emerge organically from the community that make it up. I often think about this idea that began to emerge for me when I was a squatter in Sydney around the Sydney Olympics, about the way that institutions emerge and grow. They often start from a desire, a grassroots desire from a small community to make something happen. It's a very exciting early phase. And you sort of get that vibe from the timeline about Sydney College of the Arts, 1975, the year I was born, the year Sydney College of the Arts emerged, there must have been and some of you people here might be able to report on that, there must have been a really exciting desire. We need something new. There's something missing. We need something new. And that emerges. And that same vibe was there when a group of squatters around the Sydney Olympics decided that there was this gap in housing affordability. There were houses being left empty because of property speculation, and there were really amazing people who couldn't afford to live in Sydney anymore. And when we decided to join the dots in that gap and move into these houses and provide a kind of community life setup that had all sorts of ramifications, political and cultural, was a very exciting time. We were able to extend our period of time in residence in those squats by going into this really weird arrangement with the South Sydney Council at the time, which then later on became the Sydney City Council, where they were negotiating with us to become official caretakers, to have an official caretaker's lease for that site. So we were on the route to becoming a bureaucratically legitimate organisation, and that process took 9 months, which was the best 9 months ever. At the time when this caretaker's lease was signed, there were two options: become a tamed organisation and continue to be caretakers in this way, or cease to exist anymore. So 9 months is a really short amount of time compared to 42 years, the existence of Sydney College of the Arts. But a similar kind of crossroads is ahead for Sydney College of the Arts. How to move into this next phase? Obviously, there's always a period of this feeling of resistance to change. We've built so much. We've built relationships. We've built things that really seem to be wonderful, and we don't want to let go of those things. We resist them, and it's very good to resist those changes because we understand that a lot of the push to make changes happen are not for reasons that we believe in. However, there does come a time when the pragmatist also has to step into the room and say, okay, these changes are happening, what are we actually going to do now? Are we going to be part of this conversation? Are we going to help to choose the future that Sydney College of the Arts is going to be part of? So this is actually a really, potentially, if we choose it to be, a really exciting moment. Whether it's idea-driven, studio-based, conceptual, it depends on the community that is now part of the new Sydney College of the Arts as it moves into its new home. One idea that immediately comes to mind is tied to geography. So in my experience of gardening out at Sydney College of the Arts, people often use the word isolated. We're isolated here. There's a wonderful utopian feeling about that place, but it's like you are on this far-flung colony of the main mother country, I suppose. Now you have the opportunity to think about interdisciplinarity in different ways. Artists often say, oh, I'm an interdisciplinary artist. What does that mean? I combine sculpture and video. Okay, for me that's intradisciplinarity. Within the creative arts, you are being intradisciplinary. Now you're on main campus, you're going to be bumping into people from physics, from maths, from geography, from the Sydney Environment Institute, which is like an incredibly awesome institution within Sydney University. These geographical bumpings into really do create opportunities for this kind of interdisciplinary work where not only will we be able to, the Sydney College of the Arts new community of interest and management, be able to access that wisdom, but there is the possibility that the Sydney University as a whole will be better able to understand what it is to be an artist these days. So I think I've said most of the things that I need to say, but I also have a quote that I'd like to read to finish on. And it's to do with John Cage. So this story appears over and over again in the annals of Zen Buddhism. The student comes to the teacher and begs him for instruction. The teacher says nothing. He is just sweeping up leaves. The student, frustrated, goes into another part of the forest and builds his own house. Years later, he is finally educated. And what does he do? He doesn't thank himself. He goes back to the teacher who said nothing and thanks him. It is this spirit of not teaching that has been completely lost in our educational system, says John Cage. So, thank you.